Hey, what's up, guys, gals? Somebody messaged me for a run through of Empress of Organos. Um, I have the 4.921 version, is the version that I used to transcribe this song. A lot of them are fairly similar, but basically, so let's get into it. So the intro is a D chord. You're just barring with your first finger like this. And you can basically refer to it as a D over A because you got the A in the bass here. So you get a D chord, and then you hammer onto a G over B chord, which is it's like C-shaped bar chord G. Just remove the root, and that's what you get, that chord. And then you've also got the F over A chord, which is the same as the G chord. G, you just drop it down, F over A. Then you've got a C chord over G. Same thing, you're barring with your first finger, just the second, third, and fourth strings. And then there's E flat over G chord, which is basically a C-shaped E chord. E flat, I mean. And then you add bar down and you add the G into it. And then it ends with 3 quick stabs on F, C-shaped F. So what that sounds like is, and then that leads you right into the main riff, theme 1. This is that minor third, major third hammer-on country blues riff. You get a lot of this, that kind of thing. But it starts out with a B flat, and again, you can do all this with your first finger. So B flat over F chord, right there. If you add the G in there, you basically have a G minor over F chord. But as soon as you hammer on, you've got B flat here. As soon as you hammer onto that B, you've now got a G over F, G triad, and then you add the F right here, which could also be considered G dominant 7, because you've got the 1 3 5 of G, and then you've got the F, which is the flat 7. So when you hammer it on, that's the sound you get. Then you can slide your first finger up to that C over G chord that we talked about earlier, and then hammer on to the F over A chord, just like we did in the intro. So all that together is, I'll do it a little slower and then fast. Faster. So you're playing that. That's the main riff, theme 1. Then you've got, when they start going into the vocals, Rick is basically just playing either a G major chord or a G7 chord. And he's just kind of chunking around in it. And then that, after that, there's one break in the vocals at the start, so he's chunking around the G. And when they get to the harmony part, they all sing harmony. It's a C chord, harmony, and then back to the G7, and he's playing on that. And they might add in the intro riff in between that section, and then there's more vocals. So you're in G7 again, and then you've got another segue to an interlude instrumental part, which is you're on G7, and then when they get to the home part where they sing home, it's B flat, and then you've got a little run in D Phrygian, which I'll play it first and then I'll explain it. It goes, so that riff, if you go back up, you've got D, E flat, F, G, A, B flat, C, and D. What that is D Phrygian. So that's all you got to remember. It's the third third mode of the major modes. So that's your Phrygian sound. But the way he plays it is, you got B flat, C, and then there's a little timing thing you gotta figure out. And then from there, you've got 4 times through on a G minor over F chord, which is you're just barring the, basically you're at the 3rd fret and you're just barring the top 4 strings with your first finger. And then you've also got a C6 over G chord. And the way you could play that is just, there's 2 stabs the second time through on that C6 over G. So you play that 4 times, then you end up back at the G7 or the vocal vamp, G major, whatever. This time it's a little shorter, shorter measure on that G, and then it goes right to the next segue, to the next interlude, which is again on the lyric home. They hit the C minor to D, and those are your transition chords. And then you've got what I guess would be like the second interlude. This one is G minor and D over C, or again, we've got that same chord that we could call this a dominant 7, because we've got the G, D triad, and then we've got the C, which is the flat 7 of D. So the 2 chords we're concentrating, G minor, D7. So the way the interlude sounds, and this one is in G Aeolian, because you're playing off of that natural minor, you're playing off of that G minor chord. So you've got G, A, B flat, C, and then you've got an E flat, this note, and then F and D. And that all spells out G Aeolian. So you've got the riff G minor, and then you play the Aeolian riff. So you go G minor back to that D7 or D over C. So so there's that part, and then that goes to the lyrical part where he sings, I'm the Empress of Organos, and sorry for my singing. And that part is just alternating between that G minor and D over C chord. Then there's, this would be the first second, third segue, whatever. There's a lot of parts of this song. But basically you're back at that G minor. And then you've got a transition chords with C minor to D. Then you've got a G chromatic run from G to G that leads you back into that G minor interlude with the Aeolian run. So basically what that looks like is we're going G minor, and then we go C minor, D, then we hop up to this 12th fret G, and just chromatically go all the way down to the G octave lower. So back to the back to that interlude. So a little faster. C minor to D. So basically that's your second, third segue, whatever. And that leads you back into the little interlude part, this. He plays through that a couple times and then goes back to the lyrics. So if you think you can... And then at this next transition chord, they add another chord in. It's a D sharp. So you're doing your G minor to D over C, or D7, and then you've got the same C minor, but then you go D sharp, back to D7. And then that leads you into an alternating between G minor and the D7, and it's a build-up. So they play it like, Rick plays it like 7 times, and then the band starts building up behind him, and you end up at a crescendo coming off of that. So you're basically going, and then the band starts building, and then you can start building. And when you get to the, when the whole band gets to that crescendo, you do your transition chords again, which is C minor to D, and then you jump up to G minor, F, E flat, and then you've got your little pause where he's getting ready to go back to the last interlude, or the last whatever, interlude break, whatever. So for this final one, they got a little pause, and then to signify that it's coming, Rick will do like a little scrape on the strings, and then basically what you're getting for this is the main theme 1. You're gonna just play that exact riff in 4 different positions, and that'll be your last interlude. So you've got the chromatic build-up and all that, and then you've got the G minor to E flat. Then you jump down to F. Then you jump up to A flat. Then you jump up to B. And then to D. And then your transition on that D, so you can give it a couple stabs. Then we get to the last part, which is the outro chorus, or whatever you want to call it. And that the outro is just G major, B minor 7 flat 5 to C major bar chord, and then this is a kind of like a C over D chord. Basically you're playing, after the C you jump up and you just play the C and you throw the D in there. So it's almost like a C6 over D if you add the A in. So that would be the outro. So it's G, B minor 7 flat 5, C, and then D over C6, or C6 over D, or C over D, whatever. And that's it. And then after that, they play through that outro part. They start hanging. They start hanging on G a little bit for the start of the jam, and then obviously the jams can go anywhere, but for this one, most of the time it starts in like a G Ionian kind of Mixolydian area, basically G major, and then they kind of start moving around to whatever. It's just to anything. It's just improvisational music, so I'm not going to try to explain where they're going in a jam at any given moment. But basically that's the whole song. You've got the intro, then you got theme 1, then you got the vocal part where you're just playing a G7, then the break at harmony, and then back to G7, then the next break, the B flat to C, and the D Phrygian riff, to the G minor over F, to C6 over G. Then you go back to the G7 vocal again. Then your transition chords, C minor to D. you've got that first interlude or second interlude, the G minor, G Aeolian. Then you've got the segue, G minor to D, and then C minor to D, then the G chromatic, back to that little interlude riff, the Aeolian riff, and then you've got your the next transition, which is C minor, D flat or D sharp to D7, and then you're doing that alternating G minor to DC, and then build up C minor to D, G minor, F, E flat, then the outro riff or the interlude, last interlude. Outro riff. And then the lead into the jam in G. Something like that. So that's it. That is Empress of Organos. If you have any questions, just let me know. All right.